You remember that experience. We couldn't have planned it. I shared some very personal things with our group, and I'm about to share them with you. It was Tisha B'Av time. But as the speech developed, other groups started to gather from literally all the four sides. And then in total spontaneity, when the drasha ended, we just broke out. You can literally watch this on many sites to see. First we sang Ani Mamin. I hope to give you an idea of what this site represents. It's beyond our imagination. And after Ani Mamin, we started singing O Davinu Chai. And Marco and I don't think I've danced like that since last year. And everyone, it didn't make a difference what type of Jew you were. Literally all groups were joining the speech from all sides. Maybe in the next 10 or 15 minutes the same thing will happen. But it was a moment that we captured, a highlight that's seared in the memory of your heart. You remember a few nights ago I told you I want to tell you something personal. And last year I had the privilege to say it. My mother, she should live and be well, was here when I shared it. I'm sure most of us, if not all of us, know the famous story with the Ponevezh Rav. First, get an idea in your mind of what this arch behind me represents. I just commented to have Rav Geldworth Shlita that if you look at the Jews as they were being led under, literally right here, and they're carrying on their back the shulchan and the chatzaitzos and the golden menorah, you take a look, you just sense how broken the Jews were, how sad they were. Tzobrachim, a few days ago we spoke about Dimasa Alechoya, that the tears, just look at the tears, they have yet to be wiped away. This to Titus HaRasha, who destroyed the Beis HaMikdash and the Roman Empire, this represented the zenith, the climax, like we are here forever. And his arch, the arch of Titus, was meant to depict exactly that. Look at the Kalim of the Mikdash, look at the Tzobrachim Jews, look at how sad and broken they are, but the Roman Empire and Titus will be here for perpetuity. Everybody knows that the Ponevezh Rav, on one of his trips here in Rome, asked someone, and Rabbi Geldworth said that it was on a rainy evening, bring me to the Arch of Titus. And it's well known that he stood right where we are. And in that famous story, he called out, Titus, Titus, where are you? What's left of the Roman Empire? Your heritage, there's nothing. But Ponevezh Rav, I'm standing here. And I just came from B'nai Brak with our 500, at that time it was 500 B'nai Torah. In fact, we commented the other day, remember? There was a doctor who took, after many Jews from here were killed in the Holocaust, 40 Aronei HaKodesh to Eretz Yisrael. The most famous one is the golden Aron Kodesh. Where did that golden Aron Kodesh, it by the way wasn't in Rome, but near Rome, where did that Aron Kodesh from near Rome end up? In Ponevezh. Titus, you must be seething. How could that happen? Where are you? What's left of you? There's not a stitch, a trace, a shred of the Roman Empire. I'm the Ponevezh Rav. I'm standing with your Aron Kodesh, with our B'nai Torah. Now, I needed to know if that happened before or after 1953. I just asked Rabbi Geldworth. Based on a calculation, he figured it happened after 1953. And Ponevezh, you probably as well. Why? What's so personal to me? As I was walking up last year, my mother started to tear and she said, remember about Daddy. My father learned in Eretz Yisrael, Tufshin Yud Aleph Yud Beis Yud Gimel, 1951 to 53. In those 2 years, they were a famous 2 years for him. He was the Ben Bayis by Rabbi Zalman Meltzer, extraordinarily close to the Chazon Ish. Our cousin is Reb Shloimeh Berman, who was the Stipler son-in-law, nephew of the Chazon Ish, had a shaykhus with the Brisker Rav, and many Gedolim that I told you. When he was returning in 1953, again, before the story with the Ponevezh Rav happened, he said, I want to stop in Rome. I have a score that I, Mordechai Shapiro, need to settle. And walking up that incline on the cobblestone, my mother said, "You remember, don't you, the gash on the forehead?" My father stopped off in Rome before he came back to Lakewood to Rabbi in America. And he walked up the very steps that we did. And as I say, it was in 53, probably before the story with the Panavizharov, my father was standing here. He did it a little bit differently. My father climbed up now I won't do that. Nobody needs to worry. My father was tall and extraordinary athletic, as you remember. He climbed up the interior of the arch. My mother says till probably that height. And there, in 1953, my father was standing, and he was mechaven to what the Panavizharov would subsequently say. And he said, "Titus, where are you? I represent Rabbi Zalman, the Chazon Ish, the Briskirov, Rabbi, Lakewood. There's nothing left of you." And my father had those tears dripping. 1953, my father standing on that ledge on the interior. And he literally just began to pour forth what Klal Yisrael is, what we represent, who we are. Titus, there's nothing left of you. Unfortunately, at one point while he was pouring out, Mimamakim Rikshei Lev, he slipped a bit, and as a result, he fell all the way down. He gashed the center of his forehead over here. Emergency personnel was called. He was obviously gushing blood. He reminded me that when they stitched him up, they gave him a great number of stitches over here. He said they didn't even offer me any anesthesia, any painkillers. Maybe it was anti-Semitism, maybe Esav Seinei Yaakov. They just stitched him up, pure raw pain without any anesthesia. But for all the years that we were privileged that my father grew up and was our father, he would always remind us, you see this mark? This is our badge of honor. This mark that I carry for perpetuity. This is our Keneged Titus. He didn't carry it around just in Rome. He carried it when he lived in Bridgeport and in Scranton and in Miami. We represent Rabbi Zalman and the Chazon Ish and the Briskirov and Rabbi and tens of thousands of B'nai Torah. Titus, you failed miserably because my father, Zatzal, always walked around with the gash right here that let me know that we aren't going anywhere. So I feel that to be here, I won't climb up the arch. It's just a little bit personal. This is like where we turn to